Good evening, it's Thursday, 20th of February, and here's what's making news around the world on World News Tonight. Political rift. Trump labels Zelensky a dictator after Ukraine's exclusion from US-Russia talks in Saudi Arabia. Scam crackdown. 15 Chinese nationals rescued from Myanmar scam centers repatriated via Thailand amid regional effort. Tech breakthrough. Microsoft unveils quantum chip, predicts quantum computing is just years away.
From Colombo, this is World News Tonight with Mehin De Silva.
Good evening once again. President Trump has spent the day attacking Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky, calling him a dictator and deepening the rift between the two leaders. His attacks came after Zelensky, reacting to US-Russia talks in Saudi Arabia from which Kyiv was excluded, said the US president was living in a disinformation space governed by Moscow.
U.S. President Donald Trump escalated his war of words with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky on Wednesday, calling him a dictator without elections in a Truth Social post, adding that he better move fast or he is not going to have a country left. Trump's post came just hours after Zelensky said the U.S. president was trapped in a Russian disinformation bubble, after Trump suggested on Tuesday that Ukraine was responsible for Russia's full-scale invasion. Speaking at a news briefing, Zelensky said he would like Trump's team to have more truth about his country. Zelensky also said Trump's assertion that his approval rating was just 4% was Russian disinformation, and that any attempt to replace him would fail. An early February poll from the Kyiv International Institute of Sociology shows 57% of Ukrainians trust their president. Trump's comments criticizing Zelensky come as the war between Ukraine and Russia nears its 3-year mark, following Russia's invasion on February 24, 2022. Russia has seized some 20% of Ukraine and is slowly but steadily gaining more territory in the east. Zelensky's 5-year term was supposed to end in 2024, but presidential and parliamentary elections cannot be held under martial law, which Ukraine imposed in February 2022 in response to Russia's invasion. The war of words between Trump and Zelensky comes after a phone call between Trump and Russian President Vladimir Putin last week, which upended U.S. policy to isolate Russia over its invasion of Ukraine. It also follows talks between senior U.S. and Russian officials on ending the war that did not include Ukraine or Europe. On Wednesday, Putin praised the outcome of those talks in Saudi Arabia, saying, quote, "I rate them highly," and added that Ukraine would not be excluded from negotiations to end the war. Meanwhile, Trump's envoy for Ukraine, Keith Kellogg, met with Zelensky in Kyiv on Wednesday. He told reporters he was there to listen and said he understood Ukraine's need for security guarantees.
Hamas will return the bodies of 4 Israelis that were taken hostage on the October 7th, 2023 attack, setting up what Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu called a heartbreaking day for Israel. Hamas is said to release 6 more hostages in this weekend in accordance with the ceasefire deal between Israel and Hamas.
Hamas confirmed the identities of the 4 bodies on Wednesday ahead of returning them to Israel on Thursday. They include Shiri Bibas, age 32, and her 2 young boys, 4 and 9 months old, who for many Israelis have come to symbolize the plight of those taken as hostages. The family had been abducted during the October 2023 attacks on southern Israel and had since been held captive. In addition, the body of 83-year-old retired journalist Odette Lifshitz is also set to be returned. The developments are part of the initial phase of a ceasefire agreement, which includes the release of 6 living Israeli hostages on Saturday in exchange for hundreds of Palestinian prisoners. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said the nation was torn ahead of the return of the bodies.
The Holy See press office reports that Pope Francis' clinical condition is stationary, while today he was able to meet with his closest collaborators and receive a visit from Italy's Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni.
Whenever an 88-year-old is admitted to the hospital with a lung infection, it can be a cause for serious concern, particularly if it's caused by multiple different organisms, which is the case with what the Pope is battling. The Pope was admitted to the hospital Friday. We understand from a source close to the pontiff that he did not want to go, but his doctor insisted because there were tests that needed to be done in a hospital setting. Before he was admitted, we'd seen the Pope breathless at times, and various points handing over speeches to aides to complete them. And we know this is a pontiff who's also suffered respiratory illnesses and bronchitis in the past. He's been hospitalized. We know in November of 2023, he had to cancel a trip to Dubai due to an acute respiratory illness. Also, as a young man, he had part of his lung removed.
NATO members continued their largest combat exercises of 2025, testing their ability to rapidly deploy large-scale forces on the 32-nation alliance's eastern border as worries grow over its most powerful member, the United States of America.
NATO has begun its largest military exercise of the year, Steadfast Dart 2025 in Romania, aimed at enhancing the alliance's rapid deployment capabilities along its eastern border. NATO's largest combat exercise involves approximately 10,000 military personnel from 9 NATO member countries, including the United Kingdom and Spain. Exercises take place across Romania, Bulgaria, and Greece over 6 weeks, focusing on testing the readiness and interoperability of NATO's Allied Reaction Force. The ARF was established in July 2024 and is designed for deployment within 10 days, integrating conventional forces with cyber and space-based technologies. NATO's most powerful member, the U.S., is not involved, reflecting a shift toward Europe's self-reliance in defense. This comes amid uncertainties regarding the U.S. commitment to European security under President Donald Trump's administration.
And now let's take a short break. More world news on the other side. Welcome back. Panama is detaining nearly 300 people from various countries deported under the United States President Donald Trump, not allowing them to leave while waiting international authorities to organize a return to their countries. More than 40% of the migrants won't voluntarily return to their homeland. Migrants in the hotel rooms held messages to the windows reading "Help" and "We are not safe in our country."
At the Decapolis Hotel in Panama City, roughly 300 migrants wait in legal limbo. People here recently arrived on a U.S. military flight from the United States and remain in the temporary custody of Panamanian authorities. Among them is this 27-year-old who's taken to social media to share her ordeal. The appeal by Artemis Kasemzadeh has garnered over 1 million views online. Panamanian authorities, meanwhile, say the majority of migrants have agreed to be sent back to their countries of origin, and they deny impinging on the freedom of deportees. According to Panama, deportees from the U.S. who do not agree to get sent back to countries of origin will be held at a facility in the remote Darien province, through which hundreds of thousands of migrants have crossed by foot on their journey in search of a better life in the United States.
South Korea's impeached President Yoon Suk-yeol appeared in court today for the first hearing of his criminal trial over insurrection charges. Yoon arrived amid high security at the Seoul Central District Court, becoming the first South Korean president to stand trial in a criminal case.
The first preliminary hearing of President Yoon's criminal trial on Thursday morning lasted only around 13 minutes. In a suit and a red tie, Yoon was present at the Seoul Central District Court. He was not required to attend, as a defendant does not have to be present at a preliminary hearing. So eyes were on whether if he would speak for himself, but he remained silent throughout. Yoon's lawyers said they need more time, asking for 3 more weeks to review records. The court said the next hearing is on March 24th and said it would proceed with the trial afterward. Meanwhile, a separate hearing was also held to review Yoon's request to have his detention cancelled. Earlier this month, Yoon's legal team asked for the court to release the president, having been at the Seoul Detention Center since his arrest. His lawyers argued that Yoon was indicted a day after the detention period expired on January 25th, while the prosecutors said the whole process was done in a legal manner. The court on Thursday said both sides have 10 days to submit any additional documents and said it would make a decision after a thorough review.
A group of 50 Chinese nationals plucked from scam centers in Myanmar crossed into Thailand to take a flight home as a part of multinational effort to repatriate 600 Chinese. For years, criminal gangs have trafficked hundreds of thousands of people to scam compounds across Southeast Asia, including sites on the Thai-Myanmar frontier, forcing them to work in illegal online operations.
An initial group of 50 Chinese nationals crossed into Thailand, guarded by armed soldiers and military vehicles mounted with machine guns from the town of Myawaddy in Myanmar. Thai Deputy Prime Minister and Defense Minister said that a total of 600 Chinese nationals from these camp centers will be sent home via Thailand this week. A spokesperson of China's foreign ministry said that Beijing is actively cooperating bilaterally and multilaterally with Thailand, Myanmar and other countries to eliminate illegal online operations. These arrivals were a part of renewed effort by Thailand to dismantle these compounds with Beijing's backing. This has also sparked a rare grassroots effort that has collected the names of nearly 1,800 Chinese whose families said had been trafficked into Myanmar.
Marine experts have given up hope of rescuing more than 154 killer whales stranded on a remote beach on Australia's island, state of Tasmania. Experts including veterinarians were at the scene, the Arthur River on Tasmania's northwestern coast, where 157 whales were discovered on an exposed surf beach.
A pod of false killer whales, rapidly losing the battle to survive. Only 90 of more than 150 were still alive by the time rescuers arrived this morning. But it soon became clear a rescue wouldn't be possible. The Parks and Wildlife crew tried moving whales to another location to refloat them. But the attempt wasn't successful. The whales are stranded on a remote beach near the Arthur River on Tasmania's west coast. It's hard to get equipment to, and resources are also limited by nearby bushfires. Parks and Wildlife says it will euthanize the animals, then consult with the local and Indigenous communities about how best to dispose of them.
Let's take a short commercial break now. More world news on the other side. Welcome back. Yesterday, Microsoft unveiled a new chip that it said showed quantum computing is not years, not decades away, joining Google and IBM in predicting that a fundamental change in computing technology is much closer than recently believed.
Quantum computers hold the promise of carrying out calculations that would take today's systems millions of years. But the fundamental building block of quantum computers, called a qubit, is extremely difficult to control and prone to errors. Microsoft says its Majorana 1 chip is less prone to those errors than rivals, providing as proof a scientific paper set to be published in academic journal Nature. The chip has been in the works for nearly 2 decades and has a new type of material. Google last year showed off its own new quantum chip, saying that commercial applications are only 5 years away. IBM said large-scale quantum computers will be online by 2033. Microsoft did not give a timeline for when its chip would be scaled up to quantum computers that can outpace today's machines. But in a blog post, the company said it would be, quote, years, not decades.
At the heart of one small mountain town hit hard by flooding, residents are coming together to help one beloved staple of the community and a cherished resident. Take a look.
The recent floods of Kentucky may have upended lives, but hope is already simmering at a beloved eatery in Hazard, badly damaged in the disaster. Once word got out that Francis Diner was underwater, help moved in. At 84, Frances Napier, the matriarch of this local fixture, has been serving up tasty Southern meals for more than 5 decades. But it's also the side of warmth and generosity that keep diners coming back. Now, the community that she's fed and nurtured for years is returning the favor, restoring her namesake restaurant. And as she rebuilds, she knows her late husband will be close by.
As Europe's most active volcano, Mount Etna, has drawn a surge of visitors eager to witness the spectacle. However, experts warn of potential hazards, including sudden explosions, toxic gases, and unstable terrain.
Terrifying and beautiful at the same time. That is Italy's Mount Etna, and people can't seem to stay away from the allure of the bright orange lava spewing from the world's most active volcano in Sicily. The tourists getting authorities red hot while they coordinate rescues. The tallest volcano in Europe has been erupting for centuries, starting up again in February, rippling fiery red lava across the mountain's crater. Drone footage shows cascading plumes of volcanic gas rising. Italy's National Institute of Geophysics and Volcanology is tracking lava as high as 300 meters above sea level. The town below attracting thousands of tourists to get a view of the spectacular sight. But the head of Sicily's Regional Protection Agency telling CNN the influx of people is becoming a safety risk, saying tourists are blocking rescue workers and ambulances from reaching the mountain and hiking up the narrow, snowy roads without a guide. He said this week 8 people were rescued after getting lost for several hours attempting to hike the mountain without any help. We reached out to the department for comment but haven't heard back. Thousands of miles away, a massive eruption from Hawaii's second largest volcano has also been luring visitors. People flocking to the site just to get a glimpse of the fountaining lava erupting on and off since late December. For now, the volcano doesn't seem to be posing a safety risk for the visitors there. But at the snow-capped Bocca Nuova crater back in Italy, a few dozen flights had to be diverted due to the eruptions. Flights have since resumed. Skiers there getting dangerously close to the lava, defying the locals' calls to stay away. Quite a way to heat up the cold weather sport.
And finally tonight, a joint Egyptian-British mission has identified an ancient tomb near Luxor as that of King Thutmose II, marking the first discovery of a pharaonic royal tomb in more than 100 years.
Archaeologists were able to identify the tomb due to alabaster vases found on the site and inscribed with the name of King Thutmose II and his wife, Queen Hatshepsut. They also found pieces of its funerary furniture as well as pieces of mortar with blue inscriptions, yellow stars and religious writing. Egypt's Minister of Tourism and Antiquities hailed the excavation efforts in the area, emphasizing the significance of this discovery in revealing further secrets and treasures of Egypt's ancient civilization. The ministry statement added, due to flooding soon after the king's death, the tomb was generally not well preserved. There were indications that most of its content had been moved and work to recover them is underway.
Well, that's a wrap from all of us at World News Tonight. Up next, Vinod Varnasuriya is standing by for the nightly business report. I'm Mihin De Silva and we are going to leave you with the visuals of Queen Camilla meeting acting royalty at the Buckingham Palace. Thank you for watching. Have a good night.